Yes, friends, today we are going to talk about network collaboration in the digital age, in the age of AI. So, before I even start the entire podcast, I just want you to remember five C's, five C's. And I'm not even going to just go over on all those five C's right now, but I'll go one by one. It really is a 5C process. So, why network collaboration is even more important in this digital age, in the age of AI, is because we are keep getting further and further away from each other. And, we're trying to solve lots of problems digitally. We are trying to solve a lot of problems with artificial intelligence. I think it's important that we sit back and try to understand the importance of the network and define that network both in the virtual space as well as in live meetings, because you cannot really take the whole personal interaction away, a physical interaction as well. The first C I want to talk about is creativity. And creativity has different dimensions. You can have a creativity in process, you have creativity in systems, you have creativity in product, in process, in protocol. But at this point, I want to talk to you about creativity dealing with people. So remember, this is people, process, system. So let's talk about how creativity dealing with people could really help us, especially in this digital age. If I want to give you the example that at the end of the day, we are even behind the scene, behind the AI, behind all kind of networks, at the end of the day, whether that is a physical network or virtual network, we are dealing with people. So, and people have two important aspects. One is their heart and the other one is their mind. So you want to really attract both the hearts and the minds. Now, there may be more layers today than there were 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 20 or 50 years ago. There are more and more layers because we have put, many technologies and many barriers. I'm looking them as barriers right now. Yes, they help us. Now, they could either help us or hurt us. They could hurt us if those barriers really put more and more veils on our identity and our network. If they are putting more veils on the network, then unfortunately, the network is going to be pretty fragile. Yes, it may give you more privacy, but it may not give you that much advantage because you may not be appealing to hearts. You may be appealing to minds, but you may not be appealing to hearts. As you know, that there are many research out there that a physical connection, face-to-face meeting, or maybe when you are sad and you see somebody and even maybe you hug somebody, lots of your sadness goes away because there is a transfer of knowledge. There is a communication in personal interaction, and there is really no replacement for personal interaction. It's actually, so the first C, creativity in terms of people, is that let me share with you, when we had various issues in the entire supply chain, I realized that a lot of people have put lots of veils through technology, through systems, and they are not really, even though those systems and technologies were created to better communicate, unfortunately, lack of interaction is actually creating more, I would say, ill information, a lack of communication, if you understand what I'm saying. People who are in sales, they are not, even though they're putting all the information in the system, and yes, you need system, you need to create more visibility through systems, but there is no replacement of physical interaction. And I'm going to explain you that I see that people who are making promises with the customers, at the sales end, that is not, understood and communicated all the way to different layers, all the way to the procurement and back end. So I put together cross-functional teams, and I basically made sure that I have finance people, I have engineering people, I have product development people, I have project management people, I have procurement people, supply chain people, customer service people, and I have finance and accounting people. When I was able to put together these cross-functional teams and sit together and realize that how many gaps we have, even we were going through the systems, but still you have lots and lots of gaps, in actual understanding of customer commitment, customer needs, communicated all the way to multi-echelon supply chain. So when I put together these cross-functional teams, another learning I had was that each silo, whether that is finance, marketing, sales, project management, project engineering, every single silo is understanding the problem differently from their mindset. But when they sit together, because it's not really possible that a best engineer is a best finance person, a best finance person is a best product manager, process manager. So when these people sit together in a setting, now they're not only understanding the problem, but they were understanding the culture behind the problem, the communication method behind the problem. And, so that's really the reason that these people are looking at it, the problem in their own way. And especially when you're dealing with a global company, you have some people sitting in China, other people are sitting in Europe or Mexico or, any state in the United States. The people sitting in different cultures are looking at problem differently. So it's not just the veils of systems, veils of technology, but also veils of different cultures. That's the reason, when I put together these cross-functional teams from different cultures, sit together, understand the problem, then they were able to come with best business practices, and they were able to document their successes and failures into case studies. And then these case studies were solved not just internally with the internal cross-functional team, but also, having your suppliers and their suppliers in the meeting. So it was not just a cross-functional, cross-culture team, but it also multi-echelon team, and not just the echelons of your internal supply chain, but the value chain, the external supply chain as well. So now you got your cross-functional team dealing with different silos together, their cultures together, and then also multi-echelon people together as well. Now when you solve the problem, that is really a global, multicultural solution, and then that, when you solve it, it becomes a comprehensive case study. Now, when you have these people together, now they take the veils out, and now you are not just now you're not just touching the minds, but the hearts as well. So look, you became creative in your solution, how to interact with the people. So this is a creativity of dealing with people, not just the process and system. We're going to talk about that as well. But the first beginning of the creativity is with people. And then bear in mind, you don't touch just people's minds, because minds can be interacted through technology and through processes and through AI, but the hearts needs to be touched by the physical interaction, or by taking the veils as many as ways out. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the heart, minds you need to attract with innovative solutions, but also the hearts. So make sure when you are dealing with any problem, then you have a creative solution for the problem that doesn't deal with just the actual technology side of the problem, but also the heart side of the problem, that how people conceive it. And once you win the hearts, then honestly, that is a very long-term sustainable solution. And that's the reason I came up with the idea of this cross-functional, cross-cultural teams that actually solve problems together. So if you are working with a global team and you have a huge, conference call, or when you have, just on one problem, keep in mind that try to get cross-functional people, cross-cultural people, and most importantly, you are also, focused on their hearts, not just their minds. So it's not just cross-functional, cross-cultural, but also, their demographic is covered, from, different aspect, and you look at how they conceive the problem and how they, attract the problem. For example, I tell you, when you go to China and, the culture there is that people like to, develop relations, sit down on a, on a dinner table or on a long lunch table. And I have seen some people actually, like to spend hours and hours in lunch and dinners. And you might see that how you are going to be effective if you spend that much time on lunch and dinner. I remember I used to go to China and I was given a driver and I was supposed to visit many facilities with, different customers and suppliers. And, every single supplier will take you to a lunch in the daytime and they will spend half a day. And the restaurants are as big as you can think of an aquarium, like a seafood restaurant. Restaurant is just like an aquarium and all kind of delicacies, which I personally didn't care. As a matter of fact, I couldn't, swallow those delicacies. I don't even want to, take your appetite to talk about those delicacies. But I realized that if you are able to, touch their minds and hearts through creativity, then you could avoid wastage of that time and turn that into a value. So if you solve their problem, if you are, solution focused, not a problem focused, and if you can solve their problem instead of just turning your problem to their problem, you solve it together, then honestly, when they respect you through your domain expertise, number one, domain expertise, that's the mind, but then also through heart with the way you interact with their culture, then you could actually, gain respect that you are spending time on problem solving and building relations without wasting a lot of time. So, my driver used to take me to different locations and I had a very big agenda. I was supposed to visit, 60 different facilities in 5 days or less. And, it wasn't possible if I had spent hours and hours on lunch and dinner table. But if I didn't, then I may be disrespecting. But at the same time, if you can get into their heart that you mean business and you actually value their culture, but you also value the solution and you are solving their problem, then they respect you. And then you put all those different teams together and have like a workshop environment and a workshop type environment, and you build a multi-echelon, one big meeting after small individual meetings, and you solve those problems and share those case studies, then actually, honestly, you come back with a very comprehensive, sustainable solution, a global solution, and yet you left a very lasting impression, in all those people team. So our driver in the beginning would, started complaining about me that I don't really have enough time for dinner or lunch, but slowly the people understood that this is really not about having lunch or dinner, but this is about building long-term sustainable relations and solutions. And then the next thing, creativity, basically. So the first C is creativity. And now you can also take that creativity in people and take it to process and system. People, process, system. So you could basically then customize your process and you can systemize that documentation. And now that case study is not just a single case study, but you build a process behind it and you systemize it by educating and training people and building a whole system. And now that become like part of your culture. The next C is really, customizing your solution for the culture and customer needs. So, everybody talk about Toyota production system. And when you go to Japan and you realize that the Toyota's entire, factory network for their subs is within a small area. They have set up lots and lots of factories, and they can use this Toyota production system. I'm not going to go in the detail of Toyota production system, but literally people can transfer their parts in small amount on their bikes. And because it's a very small area where they have set up they have set a network of the companies and suppliers, so it's very easy to actually use that Toyota production system, a lean system, where basically you are actually building what you need and you are following that protocol. But if you take that entire, and you know how big Japan is, and then if you go to Toyota's factory, you realize that how they set up their system. It's very organized, but you gotta really see that their geography and their culture is different. And if you really take the Toyota production system and try to implement those best practices into United States, our factories in the United States, as is 100% without customizing it, I'm sorry, it's not going to produce the same results. It's a different culture and it's a different geography. United States is a lot bigger than Japan. I'm talking about area-wise. And you have one factory in Michigan and the other in Ohio and the other in, California and the other in, Texas. And if you try to set up that small shipment network and try to use the entire Toyota production system as is without customizing it, then honestly, you may not really be able to benefit as the TPS would actually work in Japan. So that's the reason we customize it and we call it TVS. Total value system, instead of Toyota production system. You say, wow, you challenge the Toyota production system. I'm not challenging the Toyota production system, but all I'm saying is that you need to customize your program to your culture and your needs, and you need to see that how you take the best practices and the essence of those best practices and how you customize it and change it to your geography and your culture. Again, we are going on the top line, so I cannot go to the detail right there. But then the next thing is really, the next C is collaboration. Creativity, first one. Secondly was customization. And the third one is really collaboration of the network. So we were dealing with different echelons and different customers and suppliers. And typical way of dealing is that a salesperson sell the product or a service, and then the purchase order come, and then the fulfillment team at the back end will try to fulfill it, and that's the story. But there are brand values of these brands you're working at the front end, at the sales. Let's say you have major medical device brands or electronics brands and what have you. Those brands are much bigger in the brand value and in the volume as compared to the brands in the back end, like a machinist, a material supplier, or plastic supplier, or different commodity suppliers, component supplier. They may not have those brands and they may not have that entire network and value. So if you really can collaborate with those brands and collaborate their volume, then can you imagine the value of that network brand? So let's say you are a $1 billion company and you have a $500 million spend, and now you're dealing with, hundreds of billions of dollars, companies like Apple and Dell and, Samsung and different electronics companies, or even in the medical device industry. Now, if you can combine the purchasing power, doesn't have to be like 100% collaboration, but putting those brands which are in the front end and creating the cluster brand value of the network at the back end. Can you imagine the purchasing power and the value adds and inefficiencies which you can take out? Just imagine. So basically, the next C we were talking about is the cluster value, the collaboration value of that cluster. And then the fourth C is having a comprehensive solution. You cannot just think of a single problem at a time. Yes, you got to solve a single problem, build a case study, but at the same time, you got to think on the comprehensiveness of the solution. And not that's the reason I'm talking about, the collaborated effort, not just at the cultures and the brands and the communities, but also different teams, different cross-functional teams. And now, if you have a finance person there, if you have, product engineering team there, if you have sales team there, if you have, I'm not saying put everybody, but taking some people and training them and making them understand, and now they become really the huge network, and they disseminate their knowledge, their learning, and they celebrate that. And then it's like the way, God forbid, disease spread, from it becomes viral. So this whole phenomena become viral in the company. And now you have, these best business practices and this, new culture shock and new collaboration, and you learn to create a comprehensive solution that not just work for the product quality, but also the financial side of things, the engineering side of things, the quality side of things, the delivery and supply chain side of things. So having to think beyond just a typical problem in a typical solution way. And then last but not least, continuous improvement. Fifth C is continuous improvement. I'm going to combine all that and give you at the end of the day a couple of examples from different industries that how this has helped me implementing this C formula in this digital age and helping to solve the problem, not just in, IT solutions or, the, the appliance industry, or not in just, different product industries, but also in the service industries, and also even in real estate, because I'm lucky to work in different sectors and different verticals in different countries. So that really helped me take these best business practices and see that if you have those best business practices, and they are truly best business practices, they actually work, everywhere, provided you customize them according to the industry. So we were talking about the fifth C, and that is continuous improvement. No matter how comprehensive solution you have developed, you have to keep thinking about how do you really continuously improve that. I was just looking at some of the new supply chain network people are developing, and they are, doing a lot of educations and training in different parts of the world. And some folks were saying, wow, UAE has a very rich environment, and people are very open and hungry for knowledge, and that's a great place of incubating this huge knowledge base. That's great. But again, any culture you go to, I mean, if you go to China, that's a big word out there. That's a word on its own. If you go to Europe, that's a word on its own. America, US. But the best thing is that you take all that knowledge and culture with you, and then you create a comprehensive solution, an innovative solution with your network brand. And then you keep looking at different cultures and different communities and different processes, and keep putting whatever you have learned into a continuous improvement, I would say, screen, and continue seeing that how you can be better all the time. So now let me share with you a couple of case studies where we were able to implement this into different industries. So in the appliance industry, when I was working in the appliance industry, I realized that this whole network collaboration really helped us, improve cost, improve cash flow, improve inventory, improve profitability, customer relations, quality. And then when I came into high tech and even in the crypto and IT industry, I realized this is more, I would say, service oriented, heavy service focused industry. That even there, if you can learn to build these best business practices and develop these internal benchmark that really help you understand the process of your supply chain partners, and you may be able to communicate better, and also save time and money being wasted. So that's really the value of developing a benchmark with cross cultural global teams, and developing an expertise, domain expertise internally, that you, before giving out any bid, you actually have a whole formulation that how do you really want to give information and receive information, so you do not have those hidden factors, and you have those those detailed codes which explain that how this code is developed. Because they say the devil is in the detail. If you submit a detail, if you have RFP, request for price form, and RFQ, request for code form, and those are detailed enough and somebody has to fill that out, then of course, all that ill communication later on that can impact time and cost will go away. And then last but not least, let me just give you example of how do we use all that into a very old industry of, you know, building real estate and building homes and all that. Honestly, if you utilize that's best business practice to, discuss the detail of your, your house building endeavor. So I build luxury homes and also, some, custom real estate, and I sit down with my customer upfront, and I give them lots and lots of information and education. Some of that, sometimes people say they like to kind of not talk about it. A lot of builders don't like to talk about it because they want the customer to come back later, and so they can charge them, change orders, and they make money in change orders. I rather actually give all that information up front, because if you can avoid this change order means time, change order means cost. If you can put all that information up front, you're educating your buyer. You may look a little more expensive up front, but you are developing this long-term sustainable relations where you are educating, because you're building a house that somebody's going to live 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years in there. And they can remember that how you were able to explain them things which are not visible, things like insulation in the walls, the wall thickness, the type of material you use, the type of windows you use, the type of, insulation, and type of roofing material, and doors and windows, and, what have you, and especially the, HVAC and energy efficiency. All those things which are not may not be required by the code are also, where should be your bathroom, and how, that should be accessed, and thinking that you may have in-laws in the future, thinking that you may, need this in the future, may need, a certain windows and doors in your basement, and, walk out, and, all those things in the height of the ceiling, not just the square feet, but the volume. All those things, a lot of time people just only talk about square foot, and they want to have a minimum amount of communication because they are eager to sign the contract. But what happens then is that you are keep changing, and change orders are keep coming, and cost is going through the roof, and the time is going through the roof, and then you end up actually building something different than what you originally started from, and your cost is different, your time is different. So to avoid all that, the best thing would be to collaborate and communicate. And I will just end this, that the value of network and physical meetings and communication, and especially going through hearts and minds and breaking the veils, all those technologies, processes, systems are good, but you do not want to hide behind it and not have actual physical interaction, either mm, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, whenever, because the value of network is always beyond all those technologies and processes, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with humans, and humans have not just the minds, but also hearts. We shouldn't forget that. Until next time, God bless you, and keep enjoying your physical interactions. Bye.